Hello everybody, welcome in the Golem QuickStart video. In the next 30 plus minutes, I'm going to walk you through the whole process from downloading the Golem packages, installing them, running your first simulation and rendering it in Maya with Arnold. If you haven't heard about Golem before, let me just give you a quick word about what it is. It's a crowd simulation and character layout software. You can get more information on the autodesk.com/solutions website, and you can see what kind of feature it has, what kind of scenario it can be used for, who has been using it for what projects. For example, Blizzard has been using it for the fighting scene of the Diablo 4 cinematics. Fortis Production used it for Arcane Season 1 and 2 for populating city streets. And Audio Effects, for example, also use it for traffic simulation for John Wick 4. Golem is mostly a plugin for Maya, but it also comes with integration with the major DCCs such as 3ds Max, Houdini, Katana, and Unreal Engine. We also have major rendering engine integration such as Arnold, RenderMan, Redshift, and V-Ray. And of course, finally, we support all major industry file formats such as USD, Alembic, and FBX. For you to be able to download the Golem package, you can go on manage.autodesk.com. Please notice that you need to have a media and entertainment collection license to have access to the card. But as soon as you do so, you'll have a couple of extra cards appearing, such as Arnold, 3ds Max, and of course Golem. I would recommend not to press the download button directly from here, but instead go into the view details here. And it will give you access to the latest version. So you can pick your favorite versions of Maya that you're going to use. Here I'm going to use 2024, and now you can press download. Make sure that there's no available downloads from here. If there's some new updates, we really recommend you to always install the latest versions which will be available. So right now, at the moment, we are running Golem 9.2, but there may be 9.2.1 and others coming here. You can also go into the extensions tab here that will give you a sense of all the integration we have, and you can download those packages from here. If you don't have a media and entertainment collection, but you still want to try Golem, you can also use the trial website. So you can go onto autodesk.com free trials, and amongst all the software which are available, you can get a free 30 days trial. So it's fully featured, it's just that it has that 30 days countdown. Once you have the package, I recommend you to install it, of course. So if you need some help regarding installation, you can go onto the Golem the Golem help website. It has a installation section. So it tells you how to download Golem, how you should install it for a single computer, how you should install it for studio deployment, for example. But they're pretty regular packages. While you're here, I will also recommend you to download the assets. So come from the documentation website, press the assets, and try to locate the Golem character pack. At the moment we're speaking, the Golem character pack is still hosted on the golem.com website, but that may change in the future. So we always recommend you to go through that stage, which will be updated. The Golem character pack is a set of pre-converted characters which will contain a male and a female character, a couple of soldiers, car, more characters here, and also a couple of motions. And those motions and characters will be assembled into ready-to-play scenes that you can just load into Maya and run by yourself, edit, and do whatever you want to. In the following quick start, I'm going to use that character pack, so make sure that you install it before you move forward with that video. Great. So once that software has been downloaded and installed, you can go into Maya and you will find into the plugin manager a new entry. If you type here GLM, it will filter and it will show you that there's something which is called Golem Crowd. So make sure to load that plugin. As soon as you load it, you can check some information about what's the version that it has, some characters, some commands which are available, and so on and so forth. Everything which is regular with a Golem with a Maya plugin. So we can close this, and once the plugin is loaded, you will get a couple of stuff appearing into your Maya view, into your Maya UI. The first thing is you're gonna have a Golem shelf with a couple of buttons here, and if the tooltips are enabled into Maya, you'll be able on each shelf to get some documentation about what it is. You also get two menus, the Golem regular menu and the Golem render menu. So one is for simulation and one is for what we call layout and rendering. You can also access a couple of casual links such as the installation, licensing, QuickStart, samples, tutorial, FAQs. So that will bring you to the Golem Autodesk documentation website into the right pages. So feel free to use those ones which are always going to be updated. Great. So now that we've been installing the plugin, also a good start could be to always check the release notes about what's the listed version of Golem. So this is the documentation website. Once again, at the top, there's something called the Golem release notes, and you'll get a sense of when was the package was made available, the number which is available. So here I'm running Golem 9.2, which is the latest one, and you can get a sense of what new features have been adding, what's been fixed. So feel free to always check if there's a newest version which may fix your issue or which may implement the feature that you've been asking for. Excellent. So now we can move into Maya and we can start creating our first crowd. Before we do so, let me walk you through the shelf. So all the shelf buttons, they're supposed to be more or less in the order you should use them. So there's first a check settings here, assets preparation, scene setup, scene behaviors, behavior tools, exports, layout, rendering, library, and that kind of things. So they're supposed to be triggered in the order of the workflow. We're going to skip some of those here. But yeah, they're usually going to be read from left to right, which is also true with the Golem menu here. So when I'm coming on a new workstation and I install Golem on it, I have that reflex to always start the render check, the scene checker. So the scene checker will go through all the Maya options, configuration, and will check that it's aligned with what's expected from the Golem side. So Golem is a simulation engine, so it requires some things to be set into a specific way. And one thing that you may have on your side is that play every frame is not enabled. So Golem needs every frame to be played, so the simulation are going to be consistent from one iteration to another. If you're having play every frame set to no here, you'll have a help link which will bring you to the Golem website and which will tell the Golem documentation website, and which tell you how you should fix this. The way you fix this here is going to be by going into playback speed and say that you want to have a play every frame, max throw time, and next time I throw that checker, I'll have all the yes aligned, and now I can start creating my simulation. Great, so here we're going to skip assets creation part. I just want to create a terrain node. So I'm going to assume that characters and motion are already been converted because I'm going to use the one from the character pack, but I want to create a terrain. So my character will have some ground adaptation running. Here I don't have any geometry, so I'll just stick to create an empty terrain. An empty terrain will have, so it will create a couple of new nodes into the scene. First, a manager node, which will handle all the global parameters for the simulation. Then you will create a group called crowd level 0, some group called environment, and into environment I'll have my terrain node. Terrain has two types of attributes, the ground adaptation attributes. So here I'm having a default plane at H0, but I can also ask to have maybe some geometry that I can connect here. And also have some navigation attributes if I wanted to have some obstacles detections. But let's stick with the default terrain for now. Then, now that I have my terrain being created, I can start by creating entity types. So let's say you do maybe a city scene and you want to have a male character, female character, maybe a kid, maybe a cars, dogs. Each of those will be Golem character that used to be my character converted into the Golem 5 format that you can use and instance into your simulation. So entity types allows you to bring those Golem character files in your scene and use them and assign them with behavior. So if I click on this, it's going to prompt me for a Golem character file, and into the Golem character pack install directory, I can go into Golem characters and I will find a list of a couple of characters. For the purpose of the quick start, I'm gonna settle on the casualman_light asset. So it's a GCHA Golem character, and I'm gonna open it. Once I open it, I'll get another prompt which will ask me to import the Maya scene containing the shaders. And here I have a list of shaders. So the Golem character file contains information about the skeleton and the geometry, but not the shaders. Because shaders may be coming from Redshift, V-Ray, or RenderMan. Some studios may even create their own shading nodes, or they may do the shading elsewhere. So we don't have capacity to store those shaders into a own file format. So this is why we ask people to store them into a Maya scene, which is more versatile. So here I want to, if I'm using the character pack, I want to dive into Golem shaders directory. And I want to pick the right character, so I'm using Casual Man Light here, and you can see we have some extension like AR for Arnold, RM for RenderMan, Redshift, and V-Ray, and this is if you're not using any of those rendering engines. There's a default versions too, which does not connect to any of those engines. Here I'm using Arnold, so I'm gonna go for Casual Light AR. So I'm gonna open this, and that's gonna bring into the middle of my scene that character here. So that character here is the template for a stadium character with a reduced number of assets. It has some variations, such as a t-shirt and a sweatshirt, a pants and some short pants and some long pants here, and so on and so forth. Now that I have that template, let me check into the scene. I now have a new type. That new type is called Casual Man Light Type 1, which has a file path set to that character asset that I just loaded. It also created a GLM behavior container, which is right now empty. Okay, so now that I have that type, I can spawn those characters around. For the spawning, I'm gonna move in here, and I've got a tool called the population tool. If you double click on that shelf icon here, it will open the population tool contexts. And that tool context allows you to see what kind of shape we can draw. So here we can do a grid, the box, freeform polygon, so on and so forth. We can also rely on my objects if we want to. Here I'm gonna stay very simple. I'm gonna use the grid props. Once I created that group, I'll end up with a new node in the scene called the population tool locator. And if I go into the attribute editor, into the shape, I'll have access to some extra attributes such as the number of slots that I want to assign. As it's a grid, I will be able to select the number of rows and the number of columns, so I can shape this the way I want to. I can change the distance between those nodes, and they really look really aligned. So if I want to add some diversity, organicity, I can provide some distance noise. I can also provide some safe distance if I want the characters to be apart from each other from a specific distance. I'll be able to change the orientation for each of those, and also noising that orientation. And whenever I'm happy with this, so let's say I'm gonna create 100 characters here, and do something like this, a little bit more. Here we go. Whenever I'm happy with this, I can press the create button here. That will create two new nodes. So that will create that character here on the floor, a walking character. So it means that there's a simulation being active. And also create a particle system and the crowd field. So particle system will hold the character information, and the crowd field will be the field which will create those characters. And from here, I can rewind, go back to the start frame of the scene here, which is going to be frame 1, which is also available here. And if I pass frame 1, if I run the simulation, now I'll get my characters appearing in the viewport. So at the position and orientation I've been specifying, those characters are instanced with the right geometry. Let's say nothing is appearing on your side, so I would encourage you to do two things. The first one will be check the scene settings again. Now that we've been building the scene and adding new nodes, the check scene settings will also adapt and reflect more into this, and there's a chance that maybe something says no here onto your side. And another reason for why the characters will not appear is maybe you don't have a media entertainment collection licensed onto your user account right now. So if this is the case, you can go into the script editor. You will get an error which will tell you that you're missing that license. So make sure that you get in touch with your Autodesk person to get that media entertainment collection license, or get the right user being set up. Great. So let me just have a quick word about what's going on here in the viewport. If I go into Arnold and I create a light and I just press render, I would not get anything for those characters. The reason for this is because there are not actual Maya geometry. There are some GPU vertex shaders, so we're taking advantage of your graphics card here to display those characters. But you get a pretty good sense, even if it's a previs mode, you get a pretty good sense of what's going on. You'll get all the skinning deformations, all the assets assignments, shading assignments, blend shapes if you have any, or close simulation if you're running any of those. So before going to rendering, that viewport information is should be pretty convenient. As I said, it shows you asset diversity and shading assignment. And if you want to get a sense of how you can control those, let me walk you through this. Maybe I figured there's too many sweatshirts here into the scene. So I can go into my entity types here. I can go into the shape and I'll find the way to my character file paths. And you may notice that next to the browse button, there's another button which will open a new editor for you. You can get access to that editor from the shelf. It's going to be the second icon here into the shelf. It's the character maker. But by using that buttons, it already opens the right character file in the best context. So that's one click less by using this button here. So that character file is composed of two data. It's composed of the skeleton data. We would not dive into this into the QuickStart. There's plenty of videos for you to check if you want to convert your own characters. But we can go into the geometry file format, and here for that geometry, I can quickly walk you through. We've been creating a variation called undercoat, which is either the t-shirt or the sweatshirt. We created a pants variation, which is either the long fold or the short pants, and we created a flag variation, which is either having a flag or not having a flag at all. And here I can go into the tab on the left, which is the default type which is assigned to my characters, and we can get a sense that half of my crowd will have the t-shirt, half of the crowd will have the sweatshirt. Let's say I don't want to have the sweatshirt anymore. I can put that weight to 0, save the file, up. And if I rewind the simulation and run it again, now you can see that all my characters wear a t-shirt. So let me re-insist on this. Golem is a simulation-based software. So whenever you change a rule in the simulation mode, you always want to rewind past the start frame. The start frame is the one which is set here into the crowd manager node. And every time we're going to pass the start frame, we're going to re-evaluate all the parameters. So if you change anything and it's not reflecting, there's a chance that you forgot to rewind that simulation. Just to make my point, you can also go into the pop tool, and for some reason you need to change, edit anything. So let's say we need to change the distance here. If you rewind and you press, you may notice that your character are at the previous position. The pop tool and the simulation, they are not connected together. If you need to update this into the population tool, you have a button called replace. And if you replace, then when you rewind the simulation and run, all your characters will be replaced at the right position. Great. So as I said here, if we render that scene, it will come empty. So let me show you how you can bring your characters into the render scene. So the first thing I will do is I'm going to save that scene here. So let's call this QuickStart 9.2 video. And I'm going to move through all of those icons there until I reach the simulation exporter. So the simulation exporter allows you to bake the simulation results into a cache, and that cache will be transferable into other GCCs, but also renderable. So I'm going to open the simulation exporter. It will give you the simulation which are available in the scene. Right now I just have one simulation, which is my characters here. It will give you the name of the cache, which will replicate the name of the scene, some frame range. Let's say here I want to export from frame 1 to 50, some attribute that you want to add on top of the cache. Where is it going to be exported into your Maya project, and you can run exports. So let's run this. And as soon as we're going to be exporting the scene, now there's a new node which will appear, which is into the Golem cache directory, which is called the simulation cache proxy. So the simulation cache proxy will replicate exactly the same attribute that the one we've been exported, such as where's my simulation, what's the name of the cache, where it's been exported, and what kind of character it has been using. I can now move freely in time, so you can now see that my timeline has been colored in green. I can move freely in this, and my character is not moving for now, but if they were moving, I'll be able to see what kind of information they have been exporting here. So now that the cache has been exported, we are into something called cache replay mode. So cache replay mode, it's an info you can get from here, from the timeline. This is something you will get from the shelf. You may have not noticed, but the last icon in the shelf now display a characters with a cache icon next to it. And this is a toggle button. So if you click on this, it will show you that you can you are now in simulation mode, you're in cache replay mode, simulation mode, cache replay mode, and you can see that there are some icons blinking in, the timeline becoming green and so on. And we also have a way into the heads up display, you can show the Golem details, and the Golem details will tell you if you're in the cache replay mode or in the simulation mode. So just a really quick information here, simulation and cache replay are not necessarily in sync. If I change something to my simulation, I will have to re-export the simulation through the simulation exporter for the cache replay mode to be updated with the right information. But now that I have my cache replay mode, I can try to render. Before rendering, because crowds rendering can be really heavy if you got tons of characters, you have a render checker node. So the same way we have a scene checker, we've got a render checker. So I encourage you, anytime you're creating a new scene, to open that render checker. It will tell you what's the version of Golem you're using, what's your current rendering engine and version, and it will analyze the whole scene for you. There's a chance that maybe the version of Arnold that you're using is not compatible with Golem. If this is the case, I encourage you to go into the script editor. It will give you all the information about what's the version that you can use and which one is compatible with Golem right now. But if you got a full yes list here, you can expect that when you press render, now you get your characters appearing. So Golem takes advantage of something called procedural rendering. So it means that we can create all the characters on the fly with a really minimal footprints. And one really nice thing about using procedural rendering is that if I store a snapshot here and I finally change my mind regarding the sweatshirts and I want to bring some sweatshirts back now, I can just change that weighting system here, press save again, and if I do another render, now you can see that those characters gets updated with that asset without having to re-export the simulation. So that's before and after. Great. So let's maybe make the simulation a little bit more interesting. So let's go back into simulation here. And let's say that now we want to play a motion onto those characters there. So if I want to assign them with emotions or actions in a general manner, I'm going to walk through the shelf here and I'm going to use a tool called the behavior editor. The behavior editor is where you're going to define what actions your character are going to do. The way you read this is that on the right, you've got an outliner, which is specialized into the nodes it handles. So here we can see the types which are available in the scene. So right now there's just the male characters. So, and here you're gonna have the behaviors which are used at the moment, the clips which has been loaded, and something we call the triggers. So I can double click onto that type here. That would open a container in the middle with the arrow, and this is the simulation flow. So this is what's gonna happen during the whole simulation for that type of character. If we had multiple types of characters, they will appear here in the list, and each of them will have their whole container, and this container can be shared. On the left, we're gonna have a library of behaviors that can be assigned, some operators with which you can combine the behavior together, some triggers to trigger some behavior at specific moment at specific events. But here we're gonna keep it simple. I'm gonna move into the library. I'm gonna select the third one. If I pass my mouse upon it, it will say this is a motion behavior, which allows me to play a set of Golem motions. So I'm going to grab that node here, and I'm going to assign it to the flow. You may notice that as soon as I pass the flow arrow here, that arrow becomes orange. And if I was about to release that block, when the flow is orange, it will connect automatically in and out. Let's say you want to remove it for some reason, you can press the Alt key, click on the behavior, and it will razor cut it. And now you can just plug it elsewhere if you want to. Let's say for some reasons that you broke an arrow and you don't know where it is, you can use the middle mouse and drag from the initial point to the destination to create your actual flow. So now that motion behavior is assigned to my characters, I can select it and I can check into the shapes what I do have. So what I do have is a couple of clips that I can load. So it means that I can play motions. So it has a couple of attributes that I can play with. If I double click on that motion behavior, I'll be able to load a couple of motions. So once again, if you go into the character pack, into Golem motions, we've got a large database of motions that you can just assign. If you go into audience, we can select some motions such as stand watching, maybe stand applause, maybe stand angry, and also maybe just a sit watching animation. So by pressing Control, at the same time I can click on a couple of clips and I can just assign them. So when they are assigned, you can see into the UI that we got all those 4 clips here. And if we were about to rewind the simulation and replay, now we will get the characters picking one of those animations randomly and just playing it. And just to make my point about what I said before regarding unsync of cache replay and simulation is that here my characters play an animation, but if I go back to cache replay, you can see that they're still playing that previous cache that we have. Okay, so I like that simulation a lot, but we can really tell that some motions are in sync here. Those characters, they are all playing at the same frame. It's really obvious. So let's say we have those 4 motions, but we want to have some organic behavior here. We can change the start frame at which each character is going to change. So I can go into start person here, and I can maybe put the start person max to 1. So now each character will pick a random frame in the whole duration of the motion. We can also change the speed ratio, so how fast the motion is played. We can slightly reduce it, so we can provide a range, which once again will be assigned randomly to the characters. And finally, I can enable some mirroring. So here it tells that we can either play the mirrored version or both the initial and the mirrored version of the motion. And characters may play that motion maybe with their right arm being raising. And now if I play that simulation, I get a little bit more of organicity. If I want to know what kind of behaviors and motions are played by a character, I can at any time left click on the character. I'll be able to see some information about what he's doing right now, what motion is playing, which motion is playing. So here he's playing Stand Angry with the mirrored version of Stand Angry, and the speed of that motion is 1.70 ratio. We can also see the frame he's playing, and so on and so forth. And if we are opening the behavior editor, we will see here with the green icon here that he's playing that motion. So if I had a couple of choices, I will see which part of the graph is being played. And you can get a sense of this for every single character. So this is what we call the visual feedback, which allows you to see what's going on and debug if you're not happy with this. Great. So now that everybody's playing, let's see how we can bring this into rendering. So I can re-export that simulation. I'm going to go back into the simulation exporter. I'm going to keep the same parameters and run the export. And now we're back in sync between cache replay and simulation. And if I press render from here, my render will update with the right postures and so on and so forth. That was for the simulation workflow. We understand that simulation allows you to solve a lot of problems, but not all of them. Because the nodes you may have when you do a crowd simulation scenes are always more or less targeting individual characters. You may have a note about, I want that character to be slightly more on the right. I want to remove that person. I want to change the orientation of that guy. I would like to have characters in the background. And if you do this with a regular simulation engine, the iteration time will be so long. And there's also a chance that if the characters are interdepending to each other because they do, I don't know, obstacle collisions and so on, it may change your whole simulation. So we've been providing something called the layout tool. So just for the sake of not selecting it by accident, I'm gonna hide the population for a minute, but do not forget to unhide it later if you want to go back into simulation. Those nodes needs to be unhidden if we want to run a sim, because if I go back into sim here and I rewind and I play, nothing will happen because this is hidden. If I unhide it, here we go, now we can have everything being properly. So I'm gonna hide it here for the purpose of not selecting it by accident, and I'm gonna go back into cache replay. But now if you go into component mode with Maya, so F9, if you press F9, switch you into component mode. Now you can select individual crowd agents or multiple crowd agents, and you can manipulate them the same way you would manipulate any character or any object into the scene. So you can use W to bring the translate tool, and you can translate characters into various positions. So translation will be one thing. You'll be able to also orient characters. Here I'm in word mode orientation, but if I was using object mode orientation, you will actually orient the character around their own pivots. So here I can have them facing each other. I can use the scale. The scale word will scale the distance between the characters, but if I was using the scale object, it will actually scale the actual characters. And it's important to know that those layout modifications that I just did, I can open the layout editor. So let's move into the shelf here. You can see a walking character with a couple of layers. So this is the layout editor. And all those operations that I just did, they are recorded as non-destructive modifications. So the way you read this is first you add a selection, which apply a translation, and that translate node has all the attributes, so you can see what are the value of the translations and maybe edit it for yourself. So here I changed the value of the translations. Then I applied a rotate to have the characters facing each other, and I apply expand to maybe expand them more. And maybe you want to include more character into that stack of deformation. You can just bring a new character here, create a selector for yourself. So that selector concern that character there. And if you connect using middle click that selector to the stack, the character will inherit the same transformation, the translation, the rotation, and the expand. And we can do this on a bunch of character here and there. I can translate those people there, apply orientation, and so on. There's a lot of various tools which are available. So for example, I can delete those characters, for example. So let me create another branch of the graph. I can create the selector. The selector will contain the value of my current selection. And I can apply a kill node. So the kill node will just remove those characters. You may notice that here, my node here is blue. So it's blue because this is the graph we are evaluating right now. Here, those modifications that I did before, they're not appearing. If I right click and set as root, now you can see that all that graph is being applied into my viewport. So this is why I was saying about the fact that it's non-destructive. At any point, you can change what scenario you want to play. And let's say you like those two scenarios a lot. You want to combine that kill with do all the translate operation. You can just bring a merge node, connect all your branches with the merge node, and now those characters do not appear anymore while the translations are conserved. So the V key, right click, set as root, or V key will allow you to do this and change the focus of the layout tool. There's a lot of things that we can do. We can also duplicate a couple of characters. So for example, I'm gonna bring a new selector. So you can either drag and drop selector, or you can double click on a selector. If you double click on it, it will connect you to the latest blue node, create a selector or any node that you have here, and apply it with the root function. And I can apply maybe a duplicate. So now I have twice that group of characters, they are exactly the same, playing exactly the same time and motion. So we can also maybe frame offset them by, let's say, 20 frame. And now that they are offsetted, they are not exactly the same anymore. They don't have the same timing anymore. They're slightly offset in time. So a lot of various functions. One last one I can show you probably is maybe the geometry assignment function. So I'm going to select that character here, and I'm going to assign a add remove mesh asset node. So the t-shirt with the plus and the minus. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to remove the t-shirt from that character here. So I'm going to add remove the t-shirt here. So now the character doesn't have a t-shirt anymore, but I'm going to put instead a sweatshirt. And now it gets assigned with the sweatshirt. And whenever I'm happy with all those modifications that I can do, if I want them to be replicated into rendering, because right now, if I press render, I won't have the translated characters or the scale characters here. Up. If I want to take those into account, I need to save that file. So I'm going to save that layout file. I'm going to name it layout. By default, it's going to be saved into the same directory than the cache. And now it exists, and rendering will be able to take it into account. So all those translation that I just did will appear here. The killed characters will not be rendered, and the character with the sweatshirts will be there. Before we end that quick start, I want to give you one last note about the shaders. So if you remember, we've been loading into the scene that T-pose character. So that character holds the shaders for the template that we have. To be fair, we just need to have Maya geometry with shaders applied on, which are not hidden. So it could also be a sphere with just the shaders. So let's say your character is super heavy and you don't want to have the full T-pose character because this is making your scene really heavier for nothing, because we just want to have shaders and the shader order in the form of the mesh. You can go into the shader import crowd shader icon. You can right click on it, and there's an option called proxy crowd shaders. So that thing here will remove the T-pose character from your scene, but keep the shaders. It will create a sphere, and it will apply on each face of the sphere the actual shaders there. And now we've got it's a it's a low polygon sphere here. And if I press render, now I still get my characters, but if for some reason you decide to hide that mesh and you update your scene, the characters will not be shaded anymore, because Arnold will not know about those shaders. And if you go into the render checker, it will also tell you that some shaders are missing from the scene and you need to import them. If you forgot the shaders in the first place and you need to import them later, you can press the import crowd shader button. It will bring you a browser and you can select that Maya scene and bring it in. Or you can just, if you had them in the scene, but this is just hidden, make sure that it's part of what it is. You can hide the primary visibility of that mesh if you want to. It will still be available for Arnold, and it will be able to render those characters again. So, okay, that was it for your first simulation. Now, what's next for you? What's next is you can go onto the Golaem website and to the documentation, and there's going to be plenty of material for you to follow on. So this is the quick start. This is only the beginning of your path here, but there's tons of scenarios and advanced tutorials. So from stadiums to cities with traffic to battle scenes and so on and so forth. There's probably one tutorial for you here. And if you're missing something, or if you're discovering a bug, or if you want to suggest an improvement to the software, please go to the support section. It will bring you to either the community forum, which is here, the Golaem Discord, or the Autodesk support, and we'll be happy to hear from you. Please feel free to report anything weird, or let us know about any new features you would like to see into Golaem. I hope that tutorial was useful, and I guess see you into the next ones. Take care.